Don't let them tell you anything else unless they're willing to debate you in a fair and honest way. Eric's wandering around here, and I have Ben from Vatican City. How are you, Ben?
Good. What's happening now?
Oh, not much. I'm going to use you. I want to go over the timeline just because there's people that have questions. Where's my timeline compared to the dispensationalists and everybody else? But we're going to go with the dispensationalists as if I'm saying apocalypse past, Armageddon over. Armageddon was mud flood. So in your mind, you can just picture your average dispensationalist end time sequence events. On the left, there's the Israel, and it says Alpha, and on the other end, it says Omega. That's the end. It shows there's the resurrection. There's, that step. Then there's the rapture, because in between it has the mystery of the church. Then their next step is regathered in unbelief, elders in heaven, great actors, and that's where they roll through the 7 trumpets. A remnant saved, it says, chapters 15 and 16. Babylon, Lord's descent to earth, doom, resurrection completed, and then the millennium. Israel is restored, the spared nations blessed, and a new Jerusalem.
Satan into the pit.
Fire comes down. Then it says Satan in the pit somewhere.
Kicked in.
Yep. And then on the very end, it shows the false prophet and the beast and Satan and somebody else.
Fire from heaven.
Oh, it says second something. Oh, there's arrows, fire from heaven pointing there. I can prove that they're wrong about most of these things. And they've left out a few, and we're going to go over them. Let's first start with the
Do they have Gog and Magog on there?
There isn't.
They don't. And they show Satan, the beast, and the false prophet all going into the lake of fire at the same time.
Interesting.
Very interesting, because that's what dispensationalists teach. So we start at the resurrection, and then we have chapter 1, the things that thou hast seen. That's chapter 1 of Revelation. The mystery of the church, the body of Christ. And there's these 7 churches. That's chapters 2 and 3. And it says the things which are, and it doesn't leave. It says these things which are to shortly take place is how that verse is supposed to finish. These things must, take place. All of those churches are in what is considered Asia. Then it says the next thing that's going to happen is going to be the first resurrection, the translation of the saints, and the rapture. Because nothing happened. No mention of that generation. The people that pierced me will see my return. None of that. Then they, so they're waiting the 2,000 years. That's the rapture. And then what they have left now is what everybody else is going to go through. They're caught up in, I'm lost. They're caught up in heaven. They're not caught up in heaven, but they're living on the earth for 1,000 years with Jesus on a throne.
The elders are in heaven. It says above it there.
Yeah. Are you familiar that because dispensationalist theology, they believe they're waiting on the rapture, and that means they're going to get caught up to heaven and return to earth with him to reign for 1,000 years, because somehow they're on the earth reigning.
That's over here before the Bible.
Right.
Yeah.
The millennium's right here.
Yeah. In the millennium, Israel is restored. The Lord's descent to earth is 19. That's Armageddon.
They're saying all this is going to happen after the rapture, which is in the future, right?
Yeah, first resurrection and translation of the saints, the morning star.
So
they'll be gone for all that.
I guess, but here's the problem. the way I have it is what the Bible talks about. What we need is Jesus's birth, and a miraculous birth it was. They had the shepherds, they had the wise men, the stars, just like there's always signs. Is Eric's pointing at the new moon. People have how come people we should be going crazy over that new moon? I mean, it's like welcome to science fiction land. We've got a new moon. Whoop. You just took a dive, Dip Ben. You still there?
Well,
Yeah.
it is a sign of
Can you hear me?
wonder,
Yep.
and it does remind me a lot of like a blue star when I just look at it. It's very bluish.
It's bright. And so that's just like, it reminds me of the book of Revelation, the dragon that swallows the water. What they've got is nothing. In my postulations, that would be when the Lord swallowed the water when Jesus was born. That coincides with when, like, the Bruges canals and the Zwin, or the Zwinn, Zin or Zwin, it was revealed and people could start clear, the canals were done. I think that, it's something like that. And people from that time on knew that, wow, it was Jesus, the kings that were looking for him, the magicians, they wanted to kill for him. And then he was gone. He was caught up to heaven. Mary must have been taken to Egypt to be reunited later. It was a miraculous thing, because something has to account for, Jerusalem not being mentioned for a long, long time since David. And then all of a sudden, 30 years later, 33 years later, when the Lord is there, there's people from, I think they named 30 countries that, and it was supposed to be 1 million people. And when they spoke in tongues, everybody heard them from this tribe, that tribe, that tribe. And that was a new thing that the Pharisees all of a sudden were making a money on. And so I put that is more than possible. We have John the Baptist that they never account for, that it is coming back in judgment. And 250 times there's a reference, most of them by the Lord, that it's going to be this generation, people that pierced. And the book of Acts does mention earthquakes. It mentions famine, people going to prison. It mentions that all of Asia has departed me in 2 Timothy. So the people that are waiting for the great falling away, everything is covered in the book of Acts. It also, what's the other one that it'll come to me? So we have the 70 AD. That's when the 1,000 years starts. And then there's the falling away. We all have all that. Another thing, you're familiar with the Bible when Jesus, is sitting down, hanging out, and people run up and say, Lord, you planted, what's it going to be like after the end? And it's going to be like wheat. They throw the wheat out and it grows, and then he gets the bad news. There are tares in with the wheat. What are we going to do?
Yeah.
You have to let them grow. Let them grow. And then until the end. That's the 1,000 years. Do they ever talk about that? When did that happen? How does that happen? Where do the tares just wait on earth for them to get caught up, brought back down, and say, get to work? No, it's a wipeout. And the people that lived at the end of that generation were the people with Paul and John hanging out on Patmos, other places, waiting, and they were caught up. Everybody else, your best chance would have been in a catacomb in Cappadocia, or in a Mesa Verde cliff home. Go to mountains, whatever you do, hide, be prepared to hide from the wrath to come, because that Armageddon, much worse than the reaping, much worse than what we're going through right now in another 25 years. It says there's never going to be another devastation like that. And we see it all over the earth. I mean, Starfort City split in half and half's in the ocean and stuff. It had to be bad. They don't give us any account of where the wheat and the tares grow together, unknown to each other, but they're still being ruled by a rod of iron. So where are we at right now? Is that making any sense?
Yeah, I'm following you.
Okay, so next step is 1,000 years has to happen. Well,
Right, so Armageddon is past. The wheats and the tares
are growing together
over the 1,000 years, and which brings us basically up to this point, close to where we're at right now.
Well, at the 1,000 years, it's a good reminder. What is Satan imprisoned in the pit? What's the penalty? I think we should look that up because I'm pretty close to having that pulled up, and it might surprise you. Ben, I'm going to surprise you reading from Revelation chapter 20, verse 3. And he threw him into the abyss, Satan, shut it, sealed it over him, so that he could not deceive the nations until the 1,000 years were complete. After that, he must be released for a brief time. And that's not the same short time that they use at the beginning. This brief time is a military type use of, as a general gathers his army, you don't just do that overnight. You have to plan for the complete takeover. So he only cannot deceive the nations. All the nations are free now to repopulate, survivors from all the nations, the remnant. They're going to have to, and even the tares pretend to believe that, Jesus is real, because the other people really do. The other people really do and are happy just to stay in their own little dukedom, Barrington, kingdom, granted, wherever they live and whatever they consider it, they're happy. And we have proof for a long time that fairy tale cities, castles, they were never cavemen. So I think that's a pretty good, just a slam dunk. And I'm going to, in your mind, ask you to go back to chapter 19, because we can hit something from that chart right now. So Ben he remembers that on the chart, it showed the beast, the false prophet, and Satan being thrown into the lake of fire at one time. I would like to invite everybody to Revelation 19, verse 20. But the beast was captured along with the false prophet, who on its behalf had performed signs, deceiving those who had the mark of the beast and worshipped its image. Both the beast and the false prophet were thrown alive into the fiery lake of burning sulfur. The rest were killed with the sword that proceeded from the mouth of the one seated on the horse, and all the birds gorged themselves on the flesh. And Ben, we just finished 19. We're moving into 20. Verse 1. Then I saw an angel come down from heaven with the key to the abyss, holding in his hand a great chain. He seized the dragon, that ancient serpent who is the devil and Satan, and bound him for 1,000 years and threw him into the abyss, shut it, sealed it over him, so that he could not deceive the nations until the 1,000 years was complete. And after that, he must be released for a brief time. So he's not going into the lake of fire with the beast and the false prophet. Logically, as a philosopher, you'd agree with that, wouldn't you?
It's just not what it says.
It's not what it says at all. I'm going to skip down to verse 7, and we'll pick it up there. When the 1,000 years are complete, Satan will be released from his prison and will go out to deceive the nations in the four corners, Gog and Magog, to assemble them for battle. Their number is like the sand of the seashore. And they marched across the broad expanse of the earth and surrounded the camp of the saints and the beloved city. But fire came down from heaven and consumed them. And the devil who had deceived them was thrown into the lake of fire and sulfur, into which the beast and the false prophet had already been thrown. There they will be tormented day and night forever. I know you're excited, but the next verse says, and then I saw a great white throne and the one seated on it. Earth and heaven fled away from his presence. No place was found for them. And I saw the dead, great and small, standing before the throne, and there were open books. What's that sound like? Does it sound like, Ben, the way they describe what's happening next, or what they're waiting on?
No, and you can't get much clearer than into which the beast and the false prophet had already been thrown. I mean, you can't. There's really no way around that.
That's a slam dunk, as they say, and it goes right to the books. It's over.
Nail it.
And another just interesting thing is they're Antichrist. Where is that ever mentioned in 19 and 20 of Revelation, the chapters? It's not. It's the beast and the false prophet. Anybody waiting on the Antichrist, they've been wrong from the beginning. Anybody right now trying to ID who's the beast? Who's the beast? Who could the beast be right now? Who is it? Is it Trump? No, that was at least 1,300 years ago. The beast is over. It's over. There's no beast coming. No new beast. That was 1,000 years ago. 1,300 years ago. So, but there are still. We emulate the Bible. The Satan seems very good at deceiving the people he can count on. Seem to be one-trick ponies. They're just rewriting Star Wars all the time. The empires fought back. Yeah, we get it. You're Satan's Palpatine, and he's going to win. And I guess he won in the end at the Star Wars, finales. But not that creative. We see what and besides, God is helping us. He has to be.
Amen.
I think that it's the one right in there, right into the thrones. It's over because there has to be a time that it's at the end of the days. And when my friend Doug, the one that had, when he called me and said, what made me think about it was, if you read the Bible the way they say they want to do, read it, keep it in order, believe every word that's literal and not written in the poetic languages, that it has to happen the way, I'm claiming eventually with somebody, even if they're right in their rapture, but wrong in that in how it involves the beast and everything else, and they get raptured and something happens. The Bible's pretty clear. There's going to come a time where after 1,000 years, Satan's loosed and a city gets surrounded. So they have a very, very, in my book, less than 1/10 of 1% chance that they're still waiting on the rapture and Jesus is the savior of the world who lied about when he was coming back. But I don't think that that's true. But even if they're right, they still have to account that the Bible teaches there's going to be another Gog and Magog. That's not the same battle that they're talking about in any way, shape, or form. I mean, they're out of it. And so we have, go ahead. I'd like to hear your thoughts about, because
the one thing I wanted to say, I was just going to say the opening and the reading of the books, that's gonna come as a real shock to people, because I really believe that it might not be how we write things down. It might be a different way of recording it, but I think everything is recorded. There's going to be a record of not just everything you did, everything you said, but everything you thought. everything. I
It
think
will
people
be.
really need to start coming to terms with that and thinking about that. And people who are say, "I'm not ashamed. I don't care. I'm not afraid. I don't fear anything. I'm not ashamed." Well, think about everything you ever thought being read aloud to everyone, in front of everyone. Think about that for a while.
I just pulled up my my home screen with my latest videos.
People would laugh at mine.
The top one says Denver residents warned Grim Reaper coming, and that's going to be pretty scary.
That is.
The next one is one that is what we're talking about now, where I spliced together a video, and a big part of it is about how water has a memory, and it is, Dr. Luc Monnier, the Nobel Prize winner, they wanted their Nobel Prize back when he said, and oh yeah, by the way, HIV is not caused by a virus, and
Off with his head.
and so he's the one that he's going to be explaining how water does have a memory, even a homeopathic memory. And I'm wondering, if you didn't have internet, you haven't seen what the Lord showed me last night before, when I just got done. I went to bed and I had been thinking about the actor. His last name is Houston or something. He's an older man, and it was the 1975 movie Rollerball. Are you familiar with that?
I've actually never seen it. I'm vaguely familiar with it. And I ran out to the store earlier, and I did see that you posted the video, but I didn't really get to watch it.
How's your
I kind of
stores looking?
scanned through it.
Just 1 second then, man. Because I want to let it load.
Try to order some books.
The God knows everything, even the intentions of your heart.
So Ben might have to be taking off here pretty soon, but he hadn't seen Rollerball, but he knows a lot of he needs to hear what they say about the 13th century in the 1975 version of Rollerball.
Books, and they sent me this notice, said I had to appear at the center personally.
That's right. This is our circulation unit. You can make your choice here or by catalog. There must be some mistake. The books you've ordered are classified and have been transcribed and summarized.
Well, who summarized it?
I suppose the computer summarized them.
What'd you need books for? I just want to study up on some things.
You could go to the computer center where the real librarians transcribe the books, but we have all the edited versions in our catalog. Anything I think you'd want.
Well, let's see then. This is not a library, and you're really not a librarian.
I'm only a clerk, that's right. I'm sorry about it, really.
And the books are really in computer banks being summarized. Where is that?
Well, there's a computer bank in Washington. The biggest is in Geneva. That's a nice place to visit.
Yeah.
I guess that's where all the books are now.
Yeah, well, thank you.
She said all the books.
Hello, yes, it is. The famous Jonathan E. or Hardman E. Sorry, things are in a mess. The rollerball champion. Wonderful. Not many people come to see us, you know. We're not easy to talk to, Zero and I. We're a little confused again here today. This is embarrassing. It's embarrassing to misplace things.
Oh, misplacing data?
The whole of the 13th century. Misplaced the computers. Several conventional computers. We can't find them. We're always moving things around, getting organized. My assistants and I. But this is Zero's fault. Zero. He's the world's file cabinet. Yeah, pity. Poor old 13th century. Well, come along now. You want to get started, don't you?
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm. Oh. This way. Now, that we've lost those computers with all of the 13th century in them. Not much in the century, just Dante and a few corrupt popes, but it's so distracting and annoying. You've unlimited restrictions here, of course, but you have to come so many times. It all takes such effort.
Do the executives still come here?
Oh, they used to, some of them.
What about the books?
Books, oh no, they're all changed, all transcribed, all information's here. We've Zero, of course. He's the central brain, the world's brain. Fluid mechanics, fluidics. He's liquid, you see. His water's touch. All knowledge. Everything we ask. Such effort.
Do the executives still come here?
Oh, they used to, some of them.
What about the books?
Books, oh no, they're all changed, all transcribed, all information's here. We've Zero, of course. He's the central brain, the world's brain. Fluid mechanics, fluidics. He's liquid, you see. His water's touch. All knowledge. He flows out into all our storage systems. He considers everything. He's become so ambiguous now, as if he knows. So complicated now. Each thing we ask. This morning, we wanted to know something about the 13th century. He flows out into all our storage systems. He considers everything. He's become so ambiguous now, as if he knows nothing at all.
Could you tell me something about the corporate wars?
Wars. Oh, yes, of course, we have them all here. Punic War, Prussian War, Peloponnese.
What do you think of that so far, Ben? As somebody,
I'm gonna have to watch that.
Oh,
He
yeah.
said, yeah, he knows something. He's ambiguous.
he read it and he
Something
said
happened in the 13th
yeah,
century.
it stretched out through everywhere, and now he's ambiguous or something. Yeah, that's a strange choice of words too, as if he knows something. That's
Ambiguous. That makes me think of like the double kings and all the doubling all the stories.
it reminds me of like when Paul's ship, when he was going to Rome, they were in the doldrums. The ship wouldn't move. Everything's just locked in place or something. But this video, and I know you have to run. How much time do you have? Because the next thing is he just goes into ask a question.
I do have to go. Maybe like
Okay.
5 minutes.
Yeah. Okay, 5 minutes. I'm going to just at the very end, he introduces the computer. It's a square, and he ends up beating it up. So let's check it out.
He's in war, crime, and what they might possibly mean. Look, Zero, a visitor. Jonathan E., the rollerball champion. You filed away a lot of data on him.
Answer you?
Oh, yes, he speaks. It finds things and loses them and confuses itself. Ask anything. He'll find it for you. Section unlocked. Won't you, Zero?
All right. I'd like some information about corporate decisions, how they're made and who makes them.
Zero, you heard the question. Answer him.
Negative.
You don't have to give him a full political briefing. Answer.
Negative.
This is Jonathan E. He has to know.
And different porous, even the way it passes through our bodies is like how it passes through a semiconductor, where sometimes it goes through, sometimes it doesn't, or you have different diodes and gates, capacitors is like the rivers and waterfalls and going through rock or going through mud, and it's like it's almost, yeah, I could see the analogy.
The cube has, it looks like 4x4 circles on each side that you can look into. The water's kind of bluish. And he asked it about the corporate wars, and it just says, won't answer, won't answer, won't answer. And the guy already said it has all the information. It searches it out, it uses it, it loses it, and it confuses it. And he wiped dust off of the circle when he said that. And it's, I think he's keeping it in with everything of the 13th century. Now, I've never read Hitchhiker's Guide, to the Galaxy. At that time, I was kind of being snobbish and thought that was like, too pulp, to read.
Yeah.
But if you could fill me in on what is the connection?
Yeah, I was younger when I read it, so I liked it because I wasn't worried about it when I first read it when I was a kid. But
my dad would have spanked me. I would have got a spanking.
It shows basically kind of like some higher dimensional entities like angels or something like that, and they make a giant computer to tell them the meaning of life, and it tells them the meaning of life is 42, and they say, well, that doesn't mean anything. What the heck does that mean? And
I have heard that part of it.
So it says, all right, to tell you the question, I've designed an even greater computer where life itself will form the matrix of the computer, and it turns out that it's Earth. And then...
Oh, my goodness, he's pre-Kabbalah.
Yeah, they're all into that stuff. And but then before the program is complete on Earth, basically the government and bureaucrats who are all idiots, like real low, they're like bugs or something, they destroy the Earth to make a highway, like a space highway. And then at the end, it turns out that they had a backup Earth. They built a new Earth and somehow put everyone back, all the people and everything, even though everyone was killed. And it goes on. That's pretty much the end. It goes on. There's a new heaven and a new earth, and it's all better. Everything's fixed.
Was there kind of a glitch in it anywhere that would have, something's tying into these people to make them all think that they're Mandela? And I think it goes back to that one Indonesian tsunami on a Christmas day when it moved the earth 7 degrees, or I forget the details. Don Fugit told me about it.
I have to look at that.
You know what the D-Wave computers look like, right? We were.
Yeah. The big black cube with the blue writing on it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's pretty much like the first thing that came to my mind when I saw this computer in Rollerball. Was it's a D-Wave computer that's basically takes on supernatural powers because it basically is possessed by a spirit, supposedly. I mean,
and they have it's called Wave, like makes you think of water, D-Wave.
D-Wave, yep, exactly. And it's just bubbling water, and it's like supposedly it's like minus 100 or 1,000 degrees or whatever to keep it cool enough so it doesn't overheat because it's processing so fast and so much it creates all this heat.
I think they do have these technologies, who knows, from Egyptian times or what they use, superconductors or gold, but I think it's basically all deception and illusion. Like they think that they're going through portals, they think that they're having these mystical experiences and stuff, but it basically is, you could say it's just the devil or a demonic spirit, and it is maybe somehow piping up through some higher dimension, like that's where the actual mechanism and computing is happening, but then it has to get piped back down into Earth, our reality again, and pass through all the same filters. So what they see, even if it is some higher technology, what they see is always distorted and everything because they're still a person, they're a human being, and and it all.
We've
never
all
helps
been
them,
gone
I
to
don't
the
think.
Prussian school. We've all gone to the Prussian school.
Yeah,
We
and
trusted
in
them.
the end, it just works to control them. They're like, oh, I can see the future and do this and that, but it really it shows them something and makes them do that. It's really just like manipulating them. Like they're not really seeing the future. They're just being like manipulated by the devil. I don't really know how else to explain
I
it.
agree with that. I mean, I don't see any other option at this point.
Well, there's going to be people who are wise, and there are going to be people who aren't wise. The one thing is walk somebody out to the porch, show them the sun and the moon and the sky at the same time. Like 60% of the days, you'll be able to see it every month. The sun and the moon and the sky at the same time. Why isn't the moon always full? If they can't move past that argument, if they can't give me a straight answer, I'm not going to deal with them anymore.
Well, I haven't gotten a straight answer from that since like I was in second grade.
It's just,
I'm not a huge like robotism guy, but we all have canals around us. Like, let's go do the 5 miles, 5 flags. Take our camera or our telescope down there and make our line of sight. Like, we can do it in an hour. That's all it takes. Like, how can you explain that to me?
They won't do it. They won't do it. So I'm done with them. If they want to go to what your maps say, what your area say, I'm going to say I'm done. I'm talking to people who are seriously seeking God, not you truthers that just want to blah 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 blah. Answer that question. How is it not full every time?
All right.
Yeah.
I have the other question is one that is now, I guess, getting considered to be illegal. I'm never going to say 2 + 2 = 5 like a common math thing. And I'm never going to let somebody say, I took a vaccine so that I won't catch a disease. Now you have to take it too, or you're going to be causing people to get sick.
It's pure insanity.
2 + 2 = 5 in their world, and I'm not dealing with them anymore. And if they're going to force me to, they can kill me.
Same deal
if
with
it
that.
works, then what are you worried about?
Exactly. They cannot answer the simplest question.
That's the same deal with that.
And on my screen right now, I know you have to go. I'm showing a brain that is, labeled and all of the parts. One of them under A shows the pawns. I have artwork from, crochet. Not exactly sure, but I think, it's old. And I'll look it up, but it has, a bun sewed into the girl's hair, like her hair's in a bun. And it's a pawns. Next to it, it shows what, could be considered an eyelash, just like the Kabbalah, teaches it. And you can see it in they wrote us the message in the stones on the wall. It's all about the rocks. The stones are crying out. Jesus said he's the cornerstone. Paul said we are living stones to be fit into the body of Christ. And we're going to be judged by our works in straight up, the language they speak, not poetry. He said, I can't tell these people to be quiet because the stones will cry out. Well, they'd cry out because, Jerusalem's getting off easy. They're not getting judged. And they were much worse than the stones that had repented and displayed gold, silver, and precious stones. The same thing that we're told that our good works will bring us after Christ has by grace given us faith. How is that not being wise?
It is wise.
It is wise. And with that, I am going to let Ben go. Thank you very much, Ben. Is there anything you want to say to the Flat Earth Nation Reset Edition, disciples of Christ that are here to glorify his name?
I would say just, don't be afraid. Turn your TV off, watch the Bible, and be prepared and do things you should have been doing anyway. And everyone stay safe.
Eric, you want to add anything in closing?
Obey, consume, trust the government.
Okay,
Amen.
there's your dose of sarcasm for one day. So
Yeah, it was a joke.
Yeah, it was.
it is a flat Earth nation. You know, we've been reset, but I still have your best interest at heart. I know a couple of other men that do too. And it's all about finding the truth. It's there for us in the Bible. I'm never going to tell you anything else. Amen. Hallelujah. Aho.